Hey there! Welcome to the Stealthy Aging Livecast, Stealthy Aging Strategies Livecast. I'm so glad you're here. The month of March, we have been exploring how mindset, particularly how we can improve our mindset, nurture a growth mindset, and how that impacts us as we age. And last week and the week before, we focused specifically on meditation, which honestly, in my opinion, and based in my experience, but also based on the long history of meditation and the clinical results of meditation, I think that if you only had one tool to use to manage your mindset, that meditation would be the one. But fortunately, there are all kinds of mindset tools that we can add to the toolkit. And I'll let you in on a secret. I collect mind management tools the way some women collect shoes. I'm certified holistic coach Susan Murray and the founder of Stealthy Aging Holistic Coaching. And I am sharing with you today another tool, one of my favorite tools for managing our mindset. And I want to tell you a little story because it starts back in 1952. There was a physicist named Lester Levinson who had he was very successful in his career, but not very successful in his health. He had just deplorable health. And after his second heart attack, this should have killed you, heart attack at the age of 42, his doctors basically sent him home to die. And be careful even taking a shower, Lester, because that could kill you. So he went home, and I think as many of us would, given such a diagnosis, he really turned inward and started exploring his inner life, his emotions, his feelings, his thoughts. And he came across the realization that that his thoughts and his feelings were possibly making him sick and causing any misery that he ever had in his life. And then he also recognized that he was not his feelings, that his feelings would come and go, and that he actually had control over whether he clung on to those feelings or released them. So some weeks passed, and Lester's expiration date given to him by the doctors passed. And 3 months later, so the story goes, all of Lester's health issues reversed. And he was so profoundly grateful and amazed that releasing his feelings could actually reverse these health conditions, that that's what he started to do with his life, was to share this message of releasing unpleasant, painful feelings and how it can improve all areas of one's life. Now, he had many, many students back in the early days. One of them was Virginia Lloyd, who lived out in Sedona, Arizona. And another student was Hale Dwoskin, who ended up writing, I think he used a lot of not only of Lester's work, but also Virginia's work. And I think Virginia doesn't get enough credit, honestly, but that's just my opinion. But he developed the company, the Sedona Method, and wrote the book, the Sedona Method. And as you can see, I have used it a lot. And it's truly just one of the simplest techniques for releasing and letting go. Now, unlike meditation, which has not only millennia of history to support it, it also has some element of clinical research to support it. Not so with the Sedona method. You need to look for, if you want proof, you need to look for, you'll find some anecdotal evidence, you'll find case studies. However, there is one study. I say this with some trepidation because I really do like to find proof. When somebody says, oh, there's a study on that, I like to see the study myself, and I have not been able to find this study as hard as I look. However, I will leave a link to the press copy that the Sedona Method company put on their website. But this study, if it actually happened, and maybe it did, but it was just never published, which is very possible. But back in 2010, two researchers, Dr. David Davidson of the State University of New York and Dr. David McClelland of Harvard University, had 60, so it was a small study, but 60 subjects. They divided the 60 subjects equally into 3 groups. One group was taught the Sedona method, releasing. It's also called release technique, letting go. And one group was taught progressive relaxation, which is just you tighten certain parts of your body and tighten, and then release. And then there was a control group who, that control group was composed of people who were interested in stress reduction techniques, but they had not been taught any for this study. All the subjects were shown a film of 3 gory industrial accidents, once before the training, and then 2 weeks following their training, and then 3.5 months following their training. And at each point along this, the researchers tested heart rate, blood pressure, and muscle tension. And I will leave a link. The link is going to be Harvard study, I call it, but it's actually a press release. And their conclusion, researchers' conclusion, was that the Sedona method, quote, stands out far and beyond the rest for its simplicity, efficiency, absence of questionable concepts, and rapidity of observable results, including significant reduction in heart rate and diastolic blood pressure. Which, that's a pretty impressive endorsement. The heart rate improvement in the progressive relaxation group was 100% improvement in heart rate over the control group. And in the Sedona group, they found a kind of mind-boggling 360% improvement in heart rate over the control group. So I want to take you through this process. It's very, very simple. First, ask yourself, could I welcome whatever I'm feeling? So you identify whatever the problem or the thought or the feeling that is troubling you, something you're suffering from. Could I welcome whatever that is. And here's why this step is so important. Welcoming it or surrendering to it can immediately reduce the negative charge. And think of it in terms of a physiological experiment. When we push away something, it requires a lot of energy. But when we just relax into it, it actually becomes effortless. So welcoming and surrendering to whatever the feeling is that you eventually want to let go of. Then ask yourself, could I let it go? Just could I? So if your first answer is no, and it might be, ask yourself, okay, just for now, just in this moment, could I let this feeling go as best as I can? Whether you answer yes or no, go on to the next step, which is, would I let this feeling go? So in other words, am I willing? Am I willing to let this go? And if your answer is no, here's a fun trick. Ask yourself, would I rather hold on to this really crappy feeling, or would I like to get rid of it? And man, I'm telling you, that question will really trigger your brain. And in my experience, if I have trouble, the first time I ask myself, am I willing to let it go? That to ask myself, do I want to hang on to this and continue feeling this way? Or do I want to be free of it? That really releases. And then finally, ask yourself, when? So this is just an invitation to let it go now. That's what that is. Just let it go now. And you just repeat these steps as often as needed until you feel a shift, until you can feel the problem or the thought or the feeling that has been plaguing you, that you can feel it and just no longer has a hold on you. Now, you might find that, like the layers of an onion, that you might peel off one or more layers of an issue with each session of releasing. And I have found that I have been releasing on a specific issue, but then a different issue that I wasn't releasing on actually resolves. So that is really cool when that happens. So as I said before, I have personally never invested in the course. They offer courses, and it might be something you're interested in. I have not done that. I think the book is a great investment, and there are a lot of free resources on the web. I'm giving you some today in the description, and I really think it's one of the easiest ways to be able to release the crap. Yeah. So that's it for today. If you are on Clubhouse, join me for the after party, and I would love to hear from you, whether you or not you use the Sedona method or any other tool that we've talked about this month. I'd love to see you over or hear you over on Clubhouse. So until next week, and next week is April, and we'll start a different theme for the month of April. So tune in next week to find out what that is. Until then, wishing you well.